All right, we are here at the National Auto Sport Association National Championships. Miller Motorsports Park is the venue in Tooele, Utah, just outside of Salt Lake City. A couple of different classes here being campaigned today. American Iron Extreme, extremely fast cars. And then American Iron will also be in competition. These guys love to go fender to fender, door to door, and no doubt there will be some rubbing. Also, STR and 1 and 2 will be out here on the track, but we'll focus on American Iron today.
American Iron, those Camaros, Mustangs, and Challenge, or Mustangs and Firebirds, big horsepower, V8 iron. Big weight, and American Iron Extreme in particular, very, very big motors here with these guys today. Virtually unlimited on what they can do to the engines, and we're going to see some very, very powerful machines as they roll out for the green.
Yeah, pretty cool stuff. We've been watching Chris Griswold, who is out here with that new blue Mustang of his. The old one's sitting in the pits ready to go if need be, but the new one out here and ready to go for the national championships. And boy, when he leaves the turns, when he comes out of the turns, that thing black tracks and leaves a nice tread of rubber. He's going to have to pay attention to tires today.
That's right. Chris has a monster of an engine here for this American Iron Extreme contest. Take a look at the grid. Chris Griswold will start on the pole in American Iron Extreme. Paul Brown outside. Elliott Fisher will start third. Pratt Cole will start fourth. And George Winkler will start fifth.
We'll go to American Iron and give you our starting order there as well. On the pole, Patrick Lindsay. Tommy Schlender on the outside pole. Ross Murray. And third, Matt White. Outside of row number 2, Corey Weber in the 5th position, and David Algazine on the outside of row 3.
All right, we're taking a look at one of our super touring cars right there.
Yeah, one of the Mazdas that we have out there in competition. I believe it was James Wagaman.
So here we go, lining up the American Iron cars. There'll be a little bit of a gap, and then we'll start there'll be a gap, and then we'll start the American Iron cars. These are American Iron Extreme cars. We'll start first. So that's Chris Griswold on pole. Elliott Fisher just outside in that yellow car. Chris Griswold last year led the American Iron race before he had a spark plug come out of his engine. Ended up in 3rd place, but last year, the winner in American Iron brought out a turbocharged engine. That was the first time anyone had done that, and just dominated. And so Griswold went back, he said, we got to go to work, and so he's brought out a turbocharged engine this year as well, and that thing is just a rocket ship down the straightaways. So green flag is out. Chris Griswold is going to lead him down, and we'll see that big turbo power, see how far he can pull out as he gets on the gas.
Yeah, he's already gapped those guys. I mean, just sick power as the American Iron cars get their start as well.
So that's Elliott Fisher going to slot into second in that yellow car.
And you're going to see a little blue smoke out of the back of Chris Griswold's car, and you're going to think it's probably an issue, but it's actually by design the way this engine is built. So everything will be okay with the vehicle. It's pretty much been doing that all weekend.
Yeah, that's right. Chris has a little bit of a blue haze coming out of there, but as you said, been going on all weekend. He seems to sort of have that well in hand, so I think he's not too worried about it. Now we'll see our American Iron cars taking the green as well.
Oh, man, kind of a crazy start there. You see some of the backpackers getting a big run here as they try to take advantage of a start, and looks like everybody's going to be okay. They're going to let the green flag wave.
Yeah, kind of a rough start there, but Patrick Lindsay in that orange Mustang, he's got the inside line. See if he can hang on to it as they... Oh, somebody going way around the outside.
Oh, hold on to it. Between the rumble strips, baby.
Look out, boys. So Patrick Lindsay is going to take the lead in that orange, older Mustang.
Yeah, one of the old, I believe it was a hatchback there as we go on board here with Dean Martin. Dean Martin with the Pilates. The Pilates, I should say, a form of shoe, not the exercise.
That's right. Maybe he does Pilates, but...
to stay in shape, but great-looking ride. Competing a lot in some of the Midwest regions so far this year.
Great on-board shot with Dean Martin. You see some good wheel-to-wheel racing. Currently in 3rd place overall. tucking in right behind the 22. That's Rusty Ferguson out of Lake Orion, Michigan, not too far away from where I grew up. Rusty's a long-time karter. He and his dad made the move into American Iron a couple years ago. They've been real successful. So Rusty's going to slot into second, Dean Martin third, and we can see not too far back there that car with a big wing on the back of it is the Agent 47 car of Corey Weber. Agent 47 building a lot of performance products for Mustangs. One of those guys that supplies a lot of the cars in the field with suspension components, things like that. And some really trick parts on that Agent 47 car.
So your leader well out front there, but the battle for second place very stiff as it stands right now. And these guys are used to going door handle to door handle. They are not afraid to do some rubbing.
Absolutely, and you can see Martin really closing up on Ferguson as he locked up the brakes a little bit going to that corner. Meanwhile, Ross Murray in the 74, that blue car, is closing as well. So everybody putting pressure on Ferguson, who's now sitting in second, but we can see Martin starting to close.
Ferguson, who's had a really fast car all year long, or watched him compete throughout the Midwest regions and Great Lake regions, flexing some horsepower, trying to make a pass here. And
here comes Martin. Martin slips up the inside, so Martin will slot into second and start to try and catch Patrick Lindsay, who meanwhile has jumped out to quite a lead just in one lap.
And Martin, now that he's gotten around here, is already starting to stretch it out a little bit, so he might have something here for our leader.
Yeah, I think Martin is pretty quick. He's one of these guys that's sort of doing a tune-up for next week's race, so runs in a bunch of other categories besides this, and obviously is a very quick car here today, so he's going to set sail, try and run down Patrick Lindsay, who meanwhile jumped out to a great big lead right off the bat. And, that's where you want to be. If he can break away from this other pack and maybe break the draft, Lindsay might have a shot at just riding out front and, not letting anybody catch up to him.
Patrick Lindsay calling New York his hometown, but nonetheless runs in the southern region of California around Orange. So claiming a West Coast region, but coming out of New York, New York.
So back on board with Chris Griswold. Man, Chris does not need to worry about anybody here. Huge lead for him. Meanwhile, we drop back to Elliott Fisher, who's come under fire from Ernesto Rocco. Rocco, a former American Iron Extreme National Champion. Always a very quick car, although I believe Rocco had some problems. I think he failed a differential earlier in the weekend, and so, car isn't quite optimal. Not quite where Rocco would like it to be, but always a threat and putting a lot of pressure on Fisher right now.
And you talked about Chris Griswold. Chris was also campaigning in the class of Spec Miata. Had a great showing there as well. So not only can he drive a high horsepower car, but he's very good at a smooth momentum car.
That's right, yes. He's a man of extremes. He gets one of the fastest, highest horsepower classes in NASA, and then one of the slower and bigger classes out there as well.
So what's he doing down the straightaway, when he's in the Spec Miata, right. Filing his nails? It's like, somebody let me know when that corner's getting close.
So Rocco still putting the pressure on, looking very good here, at least in the corners. Rocco always has really, really excellent handling, always can wheel that car around the corners, but maybe not quite there in horsepower in comparison to Griswold with that big turbo motor at this point.
Yeah, great battle going on there, though, sticking a nose down in there. It could cost him, though. Looks like something happening to the number 2 car there of Rocco.
Yeah, Rocco got a little bit sideways there, maybe got a little impatient. And that's the issue. If you can't get off the corner, or if you don't have quite enough horsepower to pass somebody down the straightaway, you sort of have to make something happen in the corners. And, at times that can cost you. Meanwhile, that red Viper who's sitting just behind Rocco, that's Mark Alger. He's actually in STR1, so that is not for position in American Iron Extreme, but Mark Alger sort of coming up to join the fight and, maybe getting between these two guys.
Mark Alger, probably the second quickest car on the track as we speak right now to Chris Griswold, so a very respectable car, one that ran an ST1 also this weekend, so that a very, very talented car and driver.
So once again, we get in the corners, and you can see Rocco closing back up, trying to find a way around. Elliott Fisher Elliott Fisher definitely seems like he has a little bit more horsepower at this point, but Rocco certainly closes up in the corners.
Oh, and right there, he can get up beside him. It's going to be tough, and it looks like he might check up because it is all but impossible to pass on the outside of this next turn, and maybe that was why, because he saw some traffic coming up.
Yeah, and it looks like that's Tommy Schlender, who's an American Iron car, and Schlender apparently is off the pace because we saw him right up at the front earlier, and now he's getting lapped a little bit too early, so apparently some problem for Schlender's car, which is unfortunate. But Rocco continues to circulate behind Elliott Fisher, still trying to find a way by. Meanwhile, that Viper is closed up and may get in between these two guys.
It seemed like a great opportunity, actually, for Rocco to maintain that position and then snooker Fisher, if you will, over there to the right.
Yeah, it just didn't quite work out. I think Fisher is, he's running a good defensive race at this point, under a lot of pressure, and it looks like I'm seeing a little bit of smoke out of Rocco's car. Not sure if that's tire smoke or potentially something else. We'll have to keep an eye on that as well.
Very early on to see any blue smoke out of one of these things. They've got a long ways to go, and again sticks his nose underneath there, and this time it's going to cost him a spot.
Yeah, actually, that cost him quite a bit. Now on board with Chris Griswold. That's what it looks like when you have that kind of horsepower and that kind of race car out front cruising away.
Yes, he comes around through here, and we'll get him on a straightaway. Just, if you can watch any stripes anywhere on the side, just watch those things accelerate. It is amazing the power and the speed this car has.
That's right. It is just a monstrous vehicle. You can see accelerating just down this little short chute, just how quick that car really is.
Yeah, he starts producing some boost in that thing, and like we said, he just doesn't have quite enough tire underneath that thing, and actually kind of missed the turn right there. Doesn't have quite enough tire to keep it hooked up the entire time.
Well, and that's the interesting thing about American Iron is that in Extreme they're allowed to do, kind of whatever they want, but they have to run on DOT tires. So, you have a lot of horsepower, but you can't really put it down too well. And that really helps sort of equalize things and force these guys to really drive these cars and gives them kind of a characteristic sort of slide around the track look that you don't see with some of the other really high horsepower V8 powered classes out there. So it's kind of an E-class, kind of unusual, and something that NASA's been doing for a while, and always a lot of fun to watch.
Great job out of Witchcraft, then through the attitudes, those S's there through Tooele turn, and now coming into Clubhouse corner. You watch him, boy, just setting up perfectly, keeping it tight. He'll go through this right-hander here. It's called wind up, and should hold it to the right here just a little bit of the track and set himself up for a nice arc here through the final turn of the lap. And that, of course, is released, and onto the straightaway we go. Hold on, baby. We're about to go for a ride.
He hit the warp drive right there. You can see Chris actually put his hand down on the gear shift even before he's out of the corner, just knowing he's going to have to catch a gear right away when he gets on that power.
Goes sailing by, and there's his closest competition. So, oh, man, Fisher way sideways at the exit of that turn.
Yeah, and you saw that Viper, Mark Alger, having to take some evasive action. Alger's going to back off as Rocco and Fisher go side by side into one. Haven't seen anybody make it around the outside, but Rocco might make it stick here.
Gets the position, and you kind of expect that as sideways as Fisher was coming off that turn.
Yep, and that's what Rocco needed. I mean, we talked about maybe doesn't have quite enough straightaway speed, but in that case, Fisher got sideways. It looks like Fisher may be smoking a little bit now, and Rocco able to move around the outside, take advantage of a little bit of a mistake, and that's going to put Rocco in second place.
A little smoke out of Rocco, too. You did see that before. And these things start overheating a little bit, and being out here at altitude, they tend to do that. A little bit of overflow coming out. Who knows, maybe a little water on the tire. It doesn't take a whole lot.
That's right, yeah, and we got to remember, when you have essentially an unlimited engine, there's a lot that can go wrong. These engines are pretty high strung, and certainly longevity is an issue for some of these cars. As much horsepower and as much RPM as they're turning. So we'll keep an eye on both of those guys, and hopefully they'll be able to continue. But certainly Rocco is pulling out a decent lead on Fisher now that he's gotten around him.
Algier getting a lot of love here, man, just kind of hanging around with these guys battling.
That's right. Probably somebody told him that we're focusing on American Iron, so he's just going to hang out.
Again, you see the smoke out of the back of the car there for Rocco. Rocco out of Reseda, California. get some help from Ford Performance Solutions. You mentioned before, Agent 47. Hoosier Tires on that one, S&S Fabrication.
All right, so checking back in. Still Patrick Lindsay out front. Nice solid lead there for him.
Well, he just got off to that great start, put a lot of real estate between himself and the rest of the crowd, and since then we thought Dean Martin might close that gap on him, but hasn't been able to close it all as of yet. As a matter of fact, they've kind of been just maintaining here lately.
That's right, yeah, and you know, this is probably a perfect scenario for Lindsay because Martin has broken away from the next pack, so he doesn't have any drafting partners. He's not probably quite close enough to really catch a good draft off Lindsay, and so he's sort of stuck in limbo right now. We've seen that in some other races where, you know, if the guy back in second has a drafting partner, he can sort of suck up on the leader. But in this case, he doesn't, and so Lindsay may be able to maintain this gap throughout the race. He's just got to be able to manage it, stay consistent, don't make mistakes, keep turning good lap times, and he's in a very good position right now.
You know, the old hatchback-style Mustang still getting it done. Looking good in there.
An old Fox body. Good to see one of those cars. You know, a lot of guys don't like to run those because they don't think they're quite as aerodynamic as some of the newer cars, but obviously big fast. Ooh, and Lindsay drops four wheels off. That is not what he wants to do, although it doesn't look like he lost too much time. But Martin is going to close now.
Yeah, every little bit helps there, and I promise you, he lost some. Did he lose enough for Martin to get up in the draft? I don't think so, but you know, nonetheless, he got out of sync, got out of his rhythm, and it's going to cost him here on this lap.
Well, and as you know, Ken, one of the issues is, you know, you drop a wheel off like that, and yet there is the time that it takes you to get back on track, but you come back on track with dirty tires. So the next couple of corners, you know, you lose time as well just getting the tires cleaned off. So there's more than just that little bit of time you actually lose when you're off track, and we're seeing that now where he may just now be getting the tires cleaned off. In the meantime, Martin's be able to close up a lot. Yeah,
Martin has really closed the gap here. That's kind of what he was hoping for. One more like that, and I'll tell you, he'll be on his back bumper.
That's right. Martin is definitely closing, got the lights on, trying to sort of let Lindsay know I am coming. And Lindsay's got to be checking his mirrors now. That's not what he wanted. You can't, you have a big lead like that. You got to be smart. Can't give up that kind of lead so easily.
It's so funny, the mind games you play with yourself whenever you make a mistake like that, and you want to think it's okay, and like, okay, I'm still out here, settle down, which is what he's got to do. I mean, it's done now, so put it in the past, get over it, don't think about it anymore, get back to drawing your line or running your line and hitting your marks, your entries and your exit marks, your mid-turn marks, and get back up on the horse.
That's right, and Martin is, you know, it looks like they've about stabilized that gap again, so Lindsay's just got to keep his head down, keep making tracks, keep moving forward. In the meantime, Martin smells blood, and he's now closed enough that he's going to be starting to catch a little bit of a draft from Lindsay. And like the AIX cars, it looks like Lindsay might be smoking a little bit here.
When you can see these cars just sling these cars, these guys just sling these cars right, then left, and then of course right again. And you know, it's a 3,000+ pound car, and it takes some real talent when these things are at speed to do that. They will get out from underneath you in a moment's notice.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's one of the great things about watching these cars. It kind of reminds you of, you know, sort of the classic sedan racing that you saw back in the day, where, you know, they got skinny tires or DOT tires, big horsepower, big weight, and you know, you just really have to kind of drift the cars around to make them work.
And you can see right there, Martin actually lost some on him because Martin missed the apex. He missed that clubhouse corner, that left-hander. He went way wide, and then that got him offline for windup, which in turn hurt him for release. It's going to still affect him here at the end of the straightaway. So going 3 turns back, he made a mistake, and he's going to pay for it all the way up to turn number 1.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, we've talked about that over and over again, that getting out of release, that last corner coming out of the straightaway is so critical. And the guys we've seen that have been successful here this weekend are all people that are willing to sort of sacrifice some of the other corners to make sure that they get on the straightaway well.
I mean, what we saw a little bit earlier you know, as we watched the leader go off track, and we talked about how much it hurt him. Well, the same thing just happened to Martin. I mean, it wasn't as dramatic, but ultimately cost him almost the same amount of real estate.
That's right, and now that's given Lindsay a little bit more breathing room again, so he's able to manage that gap still doing a good job for Lindsay.
So Patrick Lindsay off to a good start, took the lead handedly at the drop of the green flag, has yet to receive any real pressure, although Martin's slowly picking away at it. No doubt, I'm sure he's watching him in the mirror, but so far has been the man to beat here in this race in American Iron.
And Martin's still back there, but certainly it seems like Lindsay is opening up more and more of a gap, which is good news for him. You know, he's certainly driven a really good race, and I'm sure he's hopeful that he can maintain that through the duration here. We're about halfway home. We're actually going to take a break right now. Come back soon with more American Iron and American Iron Extreme action here at the NASA Championships. Stay tuned. The National Autosport Association American Iron and American Iron Extreme National Championship is brought to you by Maximum Motorsports, the source for grip in a box, and Toyo tires, driven to perform.
All right, the back half of the American Iron and American Iron Extreme race here with the NASA National Championships at Miller Motorsports Park just outside of Salt Lake City, Utah, in the town of Tooele.
So still keeping an eye on Elliott Fisher, now running third, but falling a little bit back as he runs an American Iron Extreme. He was passed earlier by Ernesto Rocco and now fading a little bit. So going to keep an eye on Elliott as he continues to circulate here.
Trying to hang on, of course, and at least maintain some sort of position. You never know what's going to happen to the guys in front of you if you could just stay there. I also see Ken Smith out there. We saw that blue Corvette. Ken Smith out here running in STR2, has done a great job in ST2 this weekend.
So it looks like the AIX cars are now lapping the American Iron cars. So, you know, as they continue to move around this track, they'll be catching the American Iron cars and sort of making their way through the field. Now on board with Chris Griswold, and that's actually Dean Martin, who's in second in American Iron that Griswold just passed, and Lindsay is just ahead of him. So the two leaders, American Iron Extreme, are right together on the track temporarily.
Yeah, Griswold with, you know, some 8-9 seconds a lap on even the fastest competitors in American Iron. So it doesn't take him too long to start making up some ground on these guys.
Yeah, and you can see there he sort of tried to get around Martin, didn't quite work out the way he wanted, and so he just waited until he get on the straightaway. And
Martin ducks in back behind him. He says, okay, man, bust some wind up for me, big dog.
Yeah, for about 3 seconds, you know, he's actually close enough until, you know, Griswold checks out. So now Griswold will make his way around Lindsay, and Lindsay still smoking pretty heavily there. So somewhat of a concern for Lindsay and his crew, I'm sure, as he still has a good lead over Martin, actually pulling away a little bit, but you know, hopefully that smoke isn't you know, an indicator of something more serious down the road.
So Griswold right around Lindsay, no issues at all. A little smoke out of Griswold's car as well, and you see a little bit of flame out of the back of it, a little raw fuel. So needless to say, running that one fat and happy. It's a little on the rich side, exactly where he needs to be. Until they start pressing him and leaning on him for horsepower, he can leave it so that it's in a soft mode.
Now Dean Martin is closed right back up on Lindsay. Not sure what's going on here, but I suspect this has something to do with the smoke we were talking about. Lindsay seems to be backing up, and now Dean Martin is right on top of him.
Hard to tell, you know, if that was an automatic, I'd say something was going away in the transmission, but at this point, I mean, standing on the throttle, it looks like it's more blow-by, maybe some stuff back past the rings. Just difficult to tell. Any number of things could be going wrong, but I'll tell you right there, man, he drove away from him, so a little better job to the attitudes. Certainly
Lindsay is still really fast in the corners. Not sure if he's losing this time on the straightaway or quite what's going on, but and it may have been just the sort of the distraction of Griswold going by, but you know, possibly a valve seal, something like that. Regardless, Martin is definitely closing up.
Great looking car there for Martin as well. Love the colors on it. I mean, you know, that's what you want to do. If you have a sponsor, you want to make that thing pop, and it's exactly what he's done there.
Yeah, absolutely. Beautiful, beautiful car. Brand new car as far as I can tell. So, and it's funny. It's one of those cars that you see and everybody sort of talks about. Have you seen the Pelote car? Have you seen the Pelote car? So, as you say, he's definitely doing his job for his sponsor and getting plenty of action for them. And, you know, coming down the straightaway, starting to close up on Lindsay. So, Martin may have a shot at a little bit higher position before the end of this race. So we kind of watch the field stream through. There's Ernesto Rocco coming through. Now a bunch of the AI cars coming through as well.
Great looking Trans Am back there, that teal colored car, and sweet looking ride.
Yeah, there's Corey Weber. And then let's see what this white car is. Oh, that's the 92. The 97, sorry, of Matt White.
97, Matt White,
yep.
Yeah, out of Plano, Texas. Texas region there, of course, 2000 model Mustang.
Yep.
You see those splitters, those balances right down there on the ground, trying to keep the air out from underneath the car.
Yeah, and that is, you know, in both American Iron and Extreme, they are allowed to run wings. They're allowed to run splitters, things like that. So you see a variety of different aero packages. Some guys choose not to run the wing because they feel like, you know, they don't want that up in the airstream for straightaway speed. Others do run the wing to try and plant the back end, especially in some of the higher speed stuff around this course. So just a good variety of different options for these cars that NASA sort of allows them to do, and it looks like Elliott Fisher is off the track.
Yeah, we saw him back there, the yellow orangish Mustang, and
there
zoom back in on him. So tough break for the 12 car.
Yeah, that is unfortunate. Not sure if Fisher just went off or if something broke. But it looks like he is stuck. That car is not moving. So, bummer for Elliott Fisher. Was running in third in AIX, and that's going to bump him down the order. So, and it looks like we're going to bring out a full course caution to get that car cleaned up.
Yeah, he's in a tough spot right there. I mean, if anybody else was to run off of that corner racing hard, they'd be right into the back of him.
That's right, and you know, with this course, it doesn't take too much time to get these cars cleaned up, and so. You know, you got to agree with the safety officials. It probably makes sense just to go full course for a lap or two, get that done, and then get us back to green flag racing. So, folks, we're going to take another quick break. We will be right back with more American Iron Extreme. Stay tuned.
And the final laps here of American Iron Extreme and American Iron with the NASA National Championships here at Miller Motorsports Park. We'll get them restarted here one more time. Unfortunately, the last time we had to stop courtesy of the 12X Elliott Fisher. Unfortunately, off the track, we got him cleared out of the way. We are ready to go racing one more time. Weather rolling in on us, so these guys trying to get done here before the rain rolls in.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, we've talked about this before. Even a little bit of rain with these big high horsepower cars can be very, very hairy. So these guys are going to have to keep an eye out for weather. And really the big story right now, Patrick Lindsay led all race long in American Iron. He's that orange car, second in line. But was starting to have some problems, smoking a little bit, losing some time to Dean Martin, who's currently second in class, third in line. We'll see if maybe Lindsay's car cooled down a little bit. Maybe he's going to be okay. Maybe he isn't. So we're going to have to keep an eye on that as they go back to green.
The blue rocket ship will come past us. That is Chris Griswold. Cars that is dumped way down there with the headlights on is Mark Algier. That is an STR1 car. Another rocket ship out here. And then, of course, the American Iron cars following in tow. Dean Martin taking us for a ride.
And as we're on board with Dean Martin, we can see he did get around Lindsay. So Martin now moving up into lead in his class. And we'll see if Lindsay can get back by him again. We talked about this before. Lindsay very quick in the corners. Maybe doesn't have quite as much horsepower as he did to start. And, you know, maybe that has something to do with the smoke we've been seeing. Maybe not. We're not quite sure. But certainly Lindsay trying to hang on, trying to get back around Dean Martin's car.
When Martin's input with the steering wheel was so smooth going through there. It's a pleasure to watch him drive that car. Nice and smooth, everything handling perfectly.
And Ross Murray taking a look on the outside of Lindsay, not able to get it done. That black Corvette just behind them, that's a different class. That's Brent Crosser, also in the STR1 class. So he's not actually racing for position, but he's going to get between Lindsay and Murray at this point as Lindsay tries to close back up on Martin. But you can see how much time he loses in these short shoots.
A little closer to the front, Griswold going by through the attitudes.
And that's Ernesto Rocco, that red car, second in class in AIX. Rocco certainly doesn't have anything for Griswold today, but still a strong run as the 206 Corvette moves around Lindsay.
Oh, has to check up, plays it smart right there.
Ooh.
Oh, yeah, a little excitement.
Yeah, a little bumper cars there. Not quite sure what happened there, but that's going to mess up Lindsay. And
it's almost like Lindsay didn't know he was there or something.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure what happened there, but that's going to allow Ross Murray to get side by side with Lindsay. And Murray wisely backing out, tucking back in, because at this point, Lindsay is a wounded duck.
It might have been a crosser coming back in formation there, back in line, and across the nose, and there goes Rocco now.
Rocco's out, yeah. So Rocco spinning off. I believe that's over in Tooele turn. Rocco looks like his day is done. So either something broke or he spun and got it stuck, but Rocco's out.
Much darker now, too. You can see it's noticeably darker out here.
Yeah, and we can see that going down the straightaway, Lindsay lost another position. Now he's going to come under fire from Corey Weber. Just behind Weber is Matt White in that silver car. So whatever's going wrong with Lindsay, it is going wrong in a bigger and bigger way. Lindsay losing more and more spots as this race goes on, and just a heartbreak for that driver and that crew after driving such a good race all race long to lose it right at the end here to an apparent mechanical failure.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that's out of his control at this point. And we mentioned it a few times how much these cars have been on the track this weekend, or this week, I should say. I mean, our race car's been on the track 10 times and could have been on more. As you take a look at the blue Corvette there, driven by Ken Smith out of Plymouth, Michigan. He's in the STR2 class and is leading that class.
And we're checking back in. Now we can see Rusty Ferguson trying to work on Lindsay as well. So Lindsay dropping farther and farther back. Just a heartbreak for him. And Corey Weber now moving up into the third position in American Iron.
So Corey Weber kind of picking his way up towards the front, looking for a podium position here today.
Now the other thing that's going on is it looks like Ross Murray is trying to catch up with Dean Martin. Martin has been very fast, and Murray earlier in the day didn't have so much for him, but you know, potentially Murray might have something right at the end here as these last few laps wind down.
Driving out there nicely, you can see pretty good power right there, and these cars do accelerate hard, no question. They've got some great horsepower in them. They're just a bit on the heavy side, which makes them extremely difficult to drive.
Sure, and those DOT tires we talked about earlier, I mean, they just do not generate the kind of grip that a racing slick would. So you've got a lot of weight, a lot of horsepower, not very much tire. It's a challenging combination, but one that definitely puts on a really good show for us and a really good show for all the fans watching.
One more time down this long straightaway, and we've seen some good lap times out of these guys in American Iron. Dean Martin, who ran a really good lap early on, like lap 3, ripped off a 2:08 right there with the best in the class.
But as a counter to that, Murray has just turned his fastest lap. Lap 15 was his best, 2:08.7. So Murray is definitely coming. Martin maybe burned up his car a little bit earlier trying to catch up with Lindsay. And, you know, Murray could definitely be a threat here right at the end.
You know, as a driver, you want that quickest lap of the race. As a crew chief, not only do you want the quickest lap of the race, but you want to see it late in the race. I mean, you'd love to see it past the halfway point to know that the car's coming in on the back half of the race when everybody else's car is falling off. But you also don't want it to come in too late.
That's right.
With 15 laps to go, it might be a little too late. I mean, you're only talking about a total of 17 laps for these guys. So he really needed to be up on that mark maybe 2 laps earlier.
That's right. He may run out of time here, although he is definitely gaining. And one of the things we talked about is we may be starting to get some rain here pretty soon. So that's another thing for these drivers to keep an eye on.
Still blows me away when you see a track that is over 3 miles in length, and you look at the two quickest lap times, they are within 1/10 of a second of each other. It's just amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, these guys, they come from all over the country. They have different cars with, different approaches to setup, and for them to be this close, it's just a testament to the class and the concept of the class. So now back on board with Chris Griswold, and you can see there is a little bit of water on that windshield. So the rain has come. I don't think there's very much rain. White flag is out, 1 to go. But there is a little bit of rain on the track at this point.
Talk about taking the confidence away from you. Man, that'll do it in a hurry, and especially if you're out front, you don't have anybody to really gauge off of, so you kind of have to run down there in no man's land. It will cost you a lot of time because you have to check up. You have to err on the side of safety.
Yeah, that's a great point. And, as a driver, when you see drops on the windshield or you see drops on your visor, it's raining. You have no good way to gauge how wet the track is. A lot of times you can't really tell while you're in the car, so you sort of move into each corner. As you were saying, it's really a confidence buster because every corner you're not sure whether you're going to hit water or not, and you can see this thing. I'm not sure if Griswold's just wiggling around because maybe he's running out of fuel, or if maybe it's breaking loose and starting to fishtail a little bit. But Griswold just has a lap to go here, and he's got to keep it together.
Yeah, it really doesn't. It didn't look like a fishtail driving away there. It did look almost like he was steering that, so you kind of wonder what's going on there.
Yeah, it could be a fuel issue there. Watching some good battles farther back in the pack. Matt White going at it.
Yeah, great racing here late, which is something we pretty much expected to happen.
And Corey Weber there as well. So good racing. That's for third place in American Iron. Now we check back in with Chris Griswold, our winner or our leader in American Iron Extreme.
He's about to be a winner here if he can keep that thing running.
Keep that thing together. Hopefully, for whatever reason he's wiggling the car around isn't going to keep him from finishing. I mean, we've seen so many issues with some of the other cars that hopefully you can see him kind of weaving around again there. So hopefully this doesn't turn into something worse.
Oh, and a lot of dust out there. Oh, and that's Dean Martin, your race leader in American Iron, off the track, into the guardrail, destroys the front of the car. 3 turns from the finish line, 3 turns from a national championship.
And that's going to allow Ross Murray to take home the national championship. Heartbreak for Dean Martin. Looked like he just got a little bit wide.
And look at Griswold doing everything he can do to hang on. That car is out of fuel.
Yeah, so Griswold coasts across the line. Ross Murray's going to come home for the win in American Iron. Unbelievable finish there. Looked like maybe Martin got into, we were talking about a little bit of water in the track, maybe got into some of that water, dropped a wheel off, overcorrected, the car hooked, hit the wall very, very hard, and that's going to finish out this race. Kind of a crazy race with Ross Murray and Chris Griswold taking home the wins.
Boy, just a tough break there for Dean Martin, who looked like he had run all but the perfect race. Man, oh man, it doesn't count unless you make it across the stripe. So he goes from 1st to 13th.
And so Chris Griswold will come home with the win in American Iron Extreme. George Winkler 2nd, Jim Panis 3rd, Ernesto Rocco, who we saw go off earlier, is going to come home 4th, and Elliott Fisher will be 5th.
Ross Murray will win the American Iron category out of Marina del Rey, California, followed by Corey Weber, Matt White, Rusty Ferguson, and David Algazine will round out the top 5.
The National Autosport Association, American Iron, and American Iron Extreme National Championship is brought to you by Maximum Motorsports, the source for grip in a box, and Toyo Tires, driven to perform.